Hey, and welcome back to another video. This is the 6th episode of the narrative, which takes place 3 years after the war with the Akatsuki, and Naruto is ready to gain a surprising new colleague to finally take the Chunnin examinations. Please support by liking and subscribing. Let's start the show. Naruto and his team made it back to town near dusk and went to see the Hokage to be debriefed on their mission. "I see everything went as planned," Tsunade said as she looked over the report. Kakashi got an evil grin on his face and said, "Well, not everything." Kakashi pulled out a stack of photos and handed them to her. Naruto's face faltered. "When did you have time to get those developed?" "We just got back, for crying out loud." Tsunade went over them and started laughing. "Haha, I really like this one. Who knew one Hyuga girl could be so fierce?" she stated while holding up a photo of him getting hit in the head with a rock with his eyes budging out of his head. Hanabi was still scowling at Naruto and turned to look at the picture. Can you get me an 8x10 of this one? I think it will look good on my nightstand," she asked Kakashi. Naruto slumped his shoulders and hung his head in dismay. "Sure can," Kakashi replied happily. They talked about the photos going on and on like Naruto wasn't in the room. After a few minutes of this, he got tired of it. "I'll be doing chakra training tonight, Tsunade," he said suddenly. She kept smiling, but gave a slight flinch when he said this. Naruto left the room while they were still talking excitedly. He leaned on the door to the Hokage's office and let out a long sigh. He looked over at the monument of his father for a few moments in thought before he held one of his blue kunais to his chest and disappeared. He reappeared just outside Ichiraku ramen stand and took an empty seat wearing a very depressed look. "Hey Tucci. Can I get a bowl of the usual?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, sure thing," he said while going back to his cooking. "You look glum, Naruto. Is there something wrong?" Irika-sensei asked from the stool next to him. Naruto let out a ragged sigh before saying, "I'm just not sure I'm cut out to be a sensei. My new student doesn't respect me at all." He sipped on his tea before saying, "I know how that feels. After all, I did have Naruto Uzumaki as my student." Naruto nodded his head a few times in agreement. "I'm sorry for being such a pain in the butt student, and I really mean that now," he said truthfully. He laughed. "You know, it's not like I wanted your student to take revenge for me because you were hard to teach. Far from it, Naruto. I'm quite proud to be able to say I was your first sensei," he stated. "I just don't know how you do it, sensei. It seems so easy for everyone else. Why am I struggling so badly?" he said as he put his forehead on the counter. Irika laughed for a moment. "You only think you're struggling, Naruto. You're quite the envy of the other Jonin senseis right now. Didn't you know that?" he asked in a happy manner. He wore a confused look while picking up his head to look at Irika and said, "No, why would they be envious of me, with the whole village hero stuff aside? Because they are Jonin and are required to teach. They're assigned students first. They aren't giving a lot of extra time to teach other students, nor should they. To a Jonin, their biggest pride is how well their students do in missions and in competitions. To them, the chance to teach the most talented students is their dream. You are still technically a Jonin, so the Jonin teaching rules do not apply to you. Yet you are teaching, and not just any students. You have been teaching the 3rd Hokage's grandson for over 7 years. Now you're training the Hyuga heiress too. Can't you see why they envy you?" he said in a kind manner. Naruto sighed. "It all sounds better on paper, but the fact is that Konohamaru is too headstrong and Hanabi is a noble with the wrong set of skills. I've got so much to teach them both. I really just don't know what to teach Hanabi next with the exams starting in 5 days," he stated sourly. "Why don't you teach her healing ninjutsu? That one is always useful and the Hyuga clan excels in it," he stated. He never moved his head. "I agree with you, but I couldn't even get through the basics of healing ninjutsu in that time. Healing jutsu isn't something I know how to shortcut like combat ninjutsu. It is one of the first jutsu I plan on teaching her after the exams," he stated in a lost manner. Irika smiled at him and asked, "Well then, what did you have in mind?" He thought about it for a moment. "I was thinking, since she's a taijutsu user with the shadow clone jutsu, that maybe I should teach her how to resist jinjutsu. Or maybe I should just get Rock Lee to train her for the last 5 days and improve her gentle fist," he said in thought. "I've never got that about you shadow clone users. If you're facing a jinjutsu, how come you can't just get your clone to hit you over the head? Wouldn't that break the jutsu?" Irika asked. Naruto thought about it. It was a workable idea, but in a jinjutsu you don't know where your clones are or if you have even summoned them. "You might be onto something there, Irika-sensei," he stated while scratching his chin. Naruto opened the door to his home and a very put-out Hanabi was staring at him with her arms crossed waiting for him. "Food," she said at him. Naruto rolled his eyes at her. "Food," she said more intently. Naruto said, "Hanabi, I need to study up on some jutsu." "Food," she said while stomping her foot and pointing to the kitchen. Naruto sighed and hung his head before saying, Okay. Food." He trudged into the kitchen to see what he had to work with. "Great, all I have to work with is instant ramen and rice. She'll probably eat me if I don't come back with something better." He groaned as he thought. The door opened and Shizen came in holding several bags of food. "Hello dear, how are you doing? I take it your first mission was a success?" she asked the grumpy-looking Hyuga. "Yes and no. Naruto made me sleep out in the woods when we were a stone's throw away from town. He dragged me through the hell of survival training when my feet were so blistered I could hardly stand and..." Shizen's look suddenly became stern and she cut Hanabi off. "You took the black sandals with you instead of the brown ones I got you, didn't you?" Hanabi's eyes grew wide for a moment, then she bit her lips together innocently and said, "And maybe." She cringed. "I bet you can hardly stand if the sage hasn't healed you yet," she yelled at her. She cringed even more. "Actually, the Hokage healed me after our debriefing. So now you're causing trouble for the Hokage too? Are you trying to hurt the Hyuga name? You're constantly pulling pranks on the great sage and now you're acting like a spoiled brat. I bet you complained the whole way. Probably even made a scene in public." Shizen's sharp words were full of venom. Hanabi could only cringe away while looking at the floor in obvious guilt. "Here, I got this for you for completing your first mission, but seeing the way that you've acted you can wear it instead." She pulled out a takeout container with a lid on it from one of the bags. She removed the lid and unceremoniously dumped it on top of Hanabi's cringing head. The thick white seafood soup covered her head and shoulders and it slowly dripped down her body with Hanabi standing there in utter shock. Shizen stormed down the hallway and slammed the door to her room. Hanabi looked like the world's most chunky, melting snowman from her shoulders up. Naruto quickly came into the doorway while mixing something in a bowl at high speed. He said with a nervous look, "It will be ready in a minute." He stared her dripping on his carpet and his jaw went slack. "I knew you were hungry, but this is a bit overboard." She turned to him still clearly in shock and said, "I'm sorry for being difficult to deal with recently. I've lost my appetite. There is no need for you to make dinner. Again, I'm sorry." She slowly and sadly walked upstairs to her room dripping all the way. Naruto wore a confused look and then sighed as he put the empty bowl down. He stood there in thought for a few moments. Naruto headed to the basement library to study for tomorrow's training. It was dark outside and the moon was nearly full when Hanabi came downstairs and headed to Shizen's bedroom. She knocked softly twice. "Come in, Hanabi," she said slightly sharper than her normal tone. She pushed the latch on her door and it slowly creaked open. Shizen was sitting on her bed with a closed book next to her. "Yes, what did you want?" she said calmly and coldly. "To just want to say I'm sorry for my behavior as of lately." Hanabi grabbed the door and slowly started pulling it shut. "I'm sorry too. I overreacted," she said, and Hanabi stopped closing the door. You just don't realize how lucky you are to be getting training from the great sage himself. Shizen sighed. Truth be told, I believe many of the girls that attacked you weren't even from Naruto's fan club. It's likely they wanted to be you in hopes that the sage would train them instead. I hope you realize there can only be 12 people with the title of Great Sage, and none of the others that have held the title were under 35 years of age. A Great Sage only comes along once in a generation if you're lucky. I know he may act like a total goofball at times, but his title still stands. What he has done for this nation and the other ninja nations still stands. She stated with kind and knowing look. Nations? As in more than one? She asked in mild shock. Shizen gave her a sour look before stating. Yes, Naruto is a hero of all the 5 ninja nations, and even the samurai world acknowledges him. Just because his official rank is Chunnin doesn't mean you should treat him like an equal. His sage rank is higher than that of a Jonin, and this is one of many reasons he is so respected. He is only still a Chunnin because of circumstances. She shuddered. That wasn't in the books I read about him. His Nindo states in so many words that he cannot lie. Yet you seem to know so little about him. Maybe if you weren't tricking him into being your boyfriend by using his Nindo against him, you would know this. She stated in an understanding tone. Hanabi hung her head and sighed. It's not that I haven't been trying to get to know him better. It's just that he keeps so many secrets that he refuses to talk about. Shizen replied. Maybe he's hiding them because he feels you aren't ready to know them, not because he doesn't want you to know. I guess I should go talk to him and apologize properly. Is he in his room? She asked while looking glum. No, he's not. He goes out to train every night. I don't know when he gets back, but I do know it is well after I go to sleep. I guess he only sleeps for about 2 hours a night on some nights. She said. His shadow clones. She thought ominously as a light flickered on in her mind and her eyes went wide. She thought back at all the times she had been training with him. Picture after picture went through her thoughts of Naruto and all his clones. In every one she saw something she always thought was strange. In every memory she saw some of his shadow clones sleeping. He doesn't sleep. She thought out loud, completely stunned. Shizen gave her a curious look before saying, What did you just say? Hanabi shook her head to clear away her daze. Nothing, Shizen. I'm going to go back to bed. Good night. Good night then. She replied and picked up her book back up. Hanabi quietly closed the door and padded lightly into the kitchen. Naruto didn't have his normal cooking clone there tonight. She went back upstairs and got dressed in her normal uniform and holstered her kunais. She padded silently through the house and out the front door, taking special care to close the door without making a noise. Hanabi turned around to see the Kyuubi statue in a shadowy silhouette with light dancing off its sharp curves on its glossy paint. She jumped back and nearly screamed. She whispered softly to herself, holding a hand over her rapidly beating heart. Damn you, Naruto. And your sick sense of humor. Hanabi crept down his walkway through his front yard of flowers and up to the door covered by yellow roses that was sentineled by 2 lamp posts. She stood there with her hand on the door handle and thought for a moment. I know Shizen isn't going to be happy about me going out without a guard of some kind, but I just have to see him right now. Steeling her nerve, she opened the door and went through it, closing it behind her. She leaned her back on the door and breathed a sigh of relief in the cool night air. Hanabi stood up straight and said, Byakugan. She looked for a blinding source of chakra, but didn't see one as she looked over the village. Going out so late? A man said. She looked on the overhang of a wall across the narrow street. There a man was crouched down with his elbows resting on his knees. She released her Byakugan and could see he was wearing all black with a cat face mask on. Who are you? She asked in a commanding voice. Extra protection in case you pulled a stunt like this. The Umbu guard replied. So you're here to stop me? She asked. Why don't you just go back to bed? There are dangers out here at night. He asked her. What if I don't go back to bed? she said defiantly. Are you going to stop me? There was a long pause before the Umbu spoke again that made Hanabi uncomfortable. No, my orders are to make sure you are safe, not stop you, but the Hokage and likely Lord Hyuga will hear about this, he said. Damn! Oh well, I'm already going to get in trouble for it. I might as well try to find Naruto, she thought in frustration and dread. She smiled at him and said, You know you don't have to tell the Hokage. Do not ever insult my pride as a member of Umbu again, young Hyuga, he stated firmly. Hanabi's shoulders slumped and she clearly knew she had said something stupid. Sorry for saying that, she said apologetically. You're not the first noble I've guarded that tried that with me, but you are one of the few that swallowed their pride and apologized for it. I will not tell the Hokage about your comment, but do you still plan to walk the streets at night? He asked. She sighed deeply. Yes, I need to find him. Very well then. I will be your shadow for tonight, he said and then vanished into smoke. Hanabi jumped from rooftop to rooftop searching high and low for her sensei. Everywhere she looked she couldn't see his blinding chakra. She slumped down on a roof and sat there for a moment in dismay. Naruto, where are you? She said softly as her eyes shifted back to normal. She laid on the roof for a few moments while looking at the moon in the clear night sky. Hanabi finally got up and decided to wander the village in hopes of finding him. She passed the restaurant where Naruto's lips had swelled up and she grinned slightly. Then farther down the street she passed Kiki's ice cream shop and she smiled. Hanabi remembered how Naruto had carried her on his back all the way to the Hokage Tower. As she retraced his footsteps to the Hokage Tower lost in her happy memories. Hanabi stopped at the stairs to the tower and gazed upon it. She was about to climb the steps when the same Umbu guard spoke out suddenly. You can't go any farther, young Hyuga. The Hokage Tower is a restricted area at night, he said firmly from a rooftop ledge of the tower. She slowly removed her hand from the stairs railing. Your sensei is not in this tower. Of that much I am certain, he stated. She sighed and looked over at the Hokage monument. I can feel you're close, Naruto, yet far away at the same time. I know you're near here even if my Byakugan can't see you, she thought while searching for him. She walked around the stairs of the Hokage Tower and walked up the stairs to the viewing platform in front of the monument with her hand on the cold no railing. The Umbu guard was watching her from the ledge. She made it to the top step and suddenly bumped into something hard with her face. She winced, her watering eyes closed from the stinging pain of bumping her nose. It took her many moments before she could see what she had bumped into. She saw nothing there. It was just empty space. She reached out to touch whatever was there. Her hand met with something solid that rippled like she had touched still water. The ripples traced farther into the air than she could see. It looked like a giant pyramid force field that had been turned upside down so that the top of the pyramid was encasing the Hokage monument viewing platform. She took a step back to awe at the sheer size of it. There is no way you're going to get inside there. Even the Hokage can't break that jutsu, the Umbu guard stated. He inside there, isn't he? She asked him. There is little doubt he is, but as to what he is doing and why he is doing it, none know. Give it up, Hanabi Hyuga. There is no hope of seeing him until he comes out. The last time I saw him use that jutsu he didn't come out until nearly morning. Now why don't you be a good girl and go back to the sage's house? He stated like he was talking down to her in a stern manner. His words angered her and she looked over at him in defiance. Hanabi took a moment to calm herself while looking at the giant shield jutsu in thought. She closed her eyes and concentrated on feeling his chakra while placing her hand over her heartstring chakra line. She held her hand out in front of her and took a deep breath and walked right through the shield. Kakashi took off his cat mask and he wore a face of utterly shock. Kami, help her, Naruto, I've failed you, he said in a hollowed, dreading state. Hanabi opened her eyes inside the shielding jutsu. She saw Naruto sitting in the middle of the platform with his legs crossed and his hand pressed together like he was praying. Out of the right side of his body, his blue chakra flowed hundreds of feet into the air that formed a giant chakra version of himself. Out of his left side poured the red demonic chakra of the Kyuubi. It towered even higher than then blue chakra, and at its top was the full form of the terrifying nine-tailed demon fox made of chakra alone. It glowed ominously red and radiated pure hatred and killing intent stronger than Hanabi ever imagined was possible. Hanabi felt fear like she had never known. She wanted to scream to run away from the horrible red demon, but she couldn't move. She wanted to close her eyes, but again her body refused. The sound of two roaring infernos drowned out every other sound in the world. When the two chakras clashed, it made an earth-shattering sound that hurt Hanabi's ears and forced the ground to shake. Kyuubi had arms growing out of each of its 9 tails that split off into still more arms again and again. At the end of arm was a red flaming hand of death seeking out the sage's glowing blue form. Naruto's chakra moved like a reed in the wind, avoiding all the hands coming at him in rapid succession. The hands crashed against the side of the shield jutsu with the force of a mountain falling down. The shock wave from it hit her with such force that it felt like the Hokage had punched her in the center of her chest, and the ground quaked with a trembling with reverberation. Again and again the Kyuubi would grow arms out of its tails trying to catch the sage, and again he would barely avoid the red hands of death. Once the hands had formed to the point of nearly filling the top of the massive jutsu, the fox would pull them back to try again. Naruto's glowing blue form charged a single point in his hand to the point that it looked like a white star of chakra and instantly hurled the massive amount of energy at the demon fox. The white star covered the distance between the two of them in the blink of an eye and hit the demon in the center of the chest. It exploded violently just as the arms were sucked back into its Kyuubi's chakra body. The sound was so sudden and so great that it nearly busted her eardrums. Ha 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 ha. Kyuubi laughed in a thundering tone as it reformed itself. Let me show you how that's really done, great sage. The demon's sinister voice boomed in mocking laughter. Its voice alone made Hanabi feel like something sick and evil was crawling into her ears. Kyuubi sent out a single hand from one of its tails that moved even faster than the others. It easily caught the chakra Naruto around the neck and slammed him against the walls of the shield jutsu, where their red and blue chakras combined ever so slightly to make the hand look like it was burning with violet flames around his throat. Kyuubi lifted its flaming head to the sky and pointed all its tails toward its mouth. Tremendous amounts of chakra started streaking into a ball in front of its mouth. The glowing Naruto struggled under the burning hand holding him, but to no avail. The great ball of chakra hummed at such a high-pitched whine that she ceased to hear it before it was done being formed. Kyuubi unhinged its jaw and swallowed the condensed chakra ball. It just stood there for a moment until again the whine could be heard climbing in a doomingly high pitch. White light started to creep out from in between Kyuubi's teeth until it lowered its massive red head and let loose an unbelievable beam of condensed chakra that exploded the chakra Naruto, and it bounced off the walls of the jutsu. Its devastating attack nearly filling the whole area with its deadly attack. Hanabi was nearly hit and her hearing was ringing and statusy. When the blast cleared away, Kyuubi was still there and millions of tiny blue orbs of chakra that was once the chakra Naruto filled the air. They slowly floated down like snow and drifted back into Naruto. The demon lost its form and slowly started receding back into Naruto's body. You failed again. You will never be able to defeat me, great sage. Ha 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 ha. It's evil, mocking voice said as its chakra was absorbed back into his body. Naruto fell over on all fours just as his left eye changed from a red cat slit eye back to normal. He was covered in sweat and panting hard. Damn it! He yelled as he slammed his fist into the ground like it was a hammer. Damn it, damn it, damn it! He yelled, beating the ground in frustration. Why? Why am I always too weak? I always end up relying on others. I can't do that this time. The shield jutsu shattered and fell away like broken glass that disappeared in mid-flight. There is no one I can fall back on. No one can help me with this fight. For years' worth of training every night and she's still toying with me, he said in fury of his failure. He panted for several long moments to catch his breath. Finally he pushed himself to his feet with a very depressed look on his face. He turned to leave only to see Hanabi frozen in shell shock at the stairs. She didn't move at all and blood was slowly dripping out of ears and onto her shoulders. Naruto wore a look of absolute horror. No! He rushed over to her and put his hands over her ears while pouring healing chakra into her. No! 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 You weren't supposed to find out this way. He yelled in sorrow and frustration while holding her face to his chest. It was several long moments of pouring chakra into her ears before she could move at all again. She began trembling uncontrollably while he healed her. The pain in her ears finally lessened and her trembling knees would no longer hold her weight. She collapsed out cold from stress. Naruto laid her on the ground and kept pouring his healing chakra into her. Naruto, Tsunade said from the stairs standing next to Kakashi. Naruto was so focused on what he was doing he didn't hear her. Naruto! She yelled at him. He looked over at her while still healing her with tears in his eyes. It's going to happen again, isn't it? She's going to turn out just like Ino. She won't even be able to look at me. Tears broke the rims of his eyes and slid down both of his cheeks. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I never wanted her to find out the way the rest of my friends did. How the hell did she get through my shield? He said quietly in despair. Naruto. Stop healing her, the wound that is left can't be healed that way. I'll take her to the hospital and examine her, she said in a very kind manner as she reached for him. Fine, he said in defeat. He placed one hand on Hanabi's chest and pulled out one of his blue kunais with the other. Put your hand on my shoulder, he stated sadly. Naruto, I don't think you're in any condition to perform that jutsu in your current state, she warned him. I'll be fine, just do it, he stated angrily. The Hokage shook her head and walked over and rested her hand on his shoulder and they vanished. They reappeared in the hospital's ER waiting room. Naruto swooned and collapsed from chakra exhaustion, hitting the floor with a dull thud. Get these two into rooms now, she yelled at the nurse on duty. Naruto woke up to a bright and blurry room. It took him several moments for his eyes to clear up enough to see that he was at the hospital. What happened? He asked himself. He remembered being beat by Ruby. He remembered how mad he was at himself for failing again then. Hanabi, he stated as his eyes went wide. He tore the sheets off himself and bolted to the door. He was about to open it and run down the hall when one of the ghosts of his past surfaced in his mind. He remembered Ino's terrified eyes that were looking at him from long ago. All his energy drained away as his fingers slipped off the doorknob and he trembled for a moment before steeling himself. He opened the door just enough to stick his head out and look around. Good, no Ino on duty it seems, he thought to himself. He lightly padded down the hall to the receptionist's desk where an older heavy-set nurse was on duty. PSSS, he hissed quietly to get her attention. She looked over at him crouching around the corner and clearly was not happy to see him. She rolled her eyes and set down the folder she was reading before saying, Oh Kami, can't you ever stay in your room, great sage? The Hokage gave you enough medication to put an elephant under for a week. She scolded him. Is Ino on duty? He asked quickly. The nurse gave him a flat look. No, she has the night shift. She went home 3 hours ago and I'll thank you to not to go chasing tails on my ER floor. Naruto's face faltered. What, damn you Hinata, he mumbled as he stood up. I'm not chasing tails, he said sarcastically. I want to know how Hanabi Hyuga is doing. She eyed him for a moment. I don't know, she just woke up. The Hokage is saying to her, Don't even think of trying to find her room. The ghost of his past brought up several memories of Ino. No, you don't have to worry about me doing that, he said sadly while shaking his head back and forth. Could you ask the Hokage to come see me after she's done? He asked her. She eyed him sternly. Maybe, if you stay in your room, she stated firmly. Naruto headed down the hall and silently waited in his room while the ghost of his past tortured his mind and made him worry. He waited for what seemed like forever before the Hokage opened the door to his room. "How is she?" he asked before the door was completely open. Tsunade walked in with a stern look on her face. She has post-traumatic stress and she's having the normal problems people have when seeing Demon Fox for the first time. She is questioning the reality of it. She's not anywhere near as bad as what Ino endured. She yelled the last part at him. "Oh," he said in a reserved manner. "She's still going to be scared of you, but she has a lot of questions you need to answer. Many of the same ones you answered for the Rookie 9. But before that..." She walked up and clobbered him over the head. "What were you thinking? Running your chakra down so low and then using that yellow flash jutsu? We were only 3 blocks away from the hospital. You damned wart sage." She clobbered him again for good measure. "Ouch! Damn it, that hurts. You're taking advantage of the fact that I don't have any sage chakra right now," he stated while rubbing the 2 lumps she gave him. "You're damned right. You deserve those lumps," she stated in a huff. "Letting Hanabi into your time-space shielding jutsu. What were you thinking?" she scolded him. Naruto's boyish act was dropped in an instant. His look changed to one of confusion and offense. "You honestly think I let her in?" she scoffed at him. "What other explanation is there?" she asked him. "Tsunade, you must have some idea of what I'm doing under that shield. Do you really think I would honestly let someone come in from the other side when I can no longer feel the presence of anyone outside the jutsu? Even if I could, do you really think I would let my girlfriend of all people inside? Hell, I wouldn't let you inside, and you're the Hokage," he stated loudly. She turned away and sighed. "You know that jutsu isn't to keep people out. It is to keep Kyuubi's power in. That's why it's a shield meant to protect and not a wall," he reasoned with her. "Yes, I now know what you do behind that shield. You're fighting the 9-tailed fox, Kyuubi, Hanabi told me," she said, both sharply and sadly unable to look at him. "Please," she begged him. "Stop this path you are on. Don't fight Kyuubi anymore," she said with her voice breaking. "You are already the strongest ninja in the village," she admitted with her head down and her hair in her face. He spoke solemnly and kindly. "No, I'm not. You're still the strongest in the village." "Huh," she stated in bitterness, throwing her head back and looking at him. "How would I stand before any number of your jutsu that could kill me before I reacted? I'm not just talking about the yellow flash either. Do you think I'm a fool?" she stated. Naruto gave her a meek smile. "Yes, you are, especially if you don't realize you would have won the battle before ever taking the field if we fought," he stated. "What do you mean? You're speaking in riddles like your master did," she stated in defeat. "No," he stated kindly. "You're refusing to see what is really there. If we met on the battlefield of true combat, I would use the worst thing I could ever do to you, not Jinjutsu, not Taijutsu, or even Ninjutsu. I would bow my head to you and ask that you take my life before striking you with killing intent. Mother, I'd let you fulfill my destiny for me. I love you far too much to strike you," he stated in clear honesty. Tsunade lowered her head, but it hardly covered the fact that she had tears rolling down her face. Naruto walked over to her and wrapped his broad arms around her shoulders. She hardly came up to his chin in his tight embrace. He could already feel her tears soaking thawed his clothes and wetting his shoulder as she cried silently. "Why do you always know what to say to make me cry? Breaking your nindo for me. You're too much like Jiraiya," she said, mastering herself and stepping away from him. "He was always too self-sacrificing as well," she said as she wiped away her tears on her sleeve. "Well, what do you expect? He will always be my master. I'll always be like him in some ways," he said quietly. After a long moment of silence, he changed the subject. "How long do you think it will be before I can see her again? A month? I don't know. It's different for every person. It could be a day, a month, or it could be never. It all depends on the person. She told him. How do you think she got into my shield? He asked her suddenly. She sighed. I am not sure. I've never heard of anyone being able to move through a time/space jutsu shield without breaking it, but I do have a theory. She said. He gave her a curious look and asked. Theory? You probably will not like it though. She stated. I still want to hear it. He replied. I'm no expert on time/space jutsu, but Orochimaru did explain something to me a long time ago. When you create your own pocket of time/space, the shield surrounding it will be tuned to your own chakra's frequency. Theoretically, if you could perfectly match the original user's chakra frequency, then you could walk through it as if it wasn't there. She stated in a kind manner. But how would she be able to, the raw chakra transfer? He stated as it came to him. Yes, that's my thoughts as well. I think she is forever connected to you in some way, Naruto. You are a mountain of chakra next to her. I doubt you'd ever be able to feel that connection, but to her, I think she does feel that connection in some small way. She said empathetically. What does this mean for us though? What will it affect? He begged her for answers. I'm not sure. She still exhibits signs of chakra addiction, doesn't she? She asked. He sighed and said. Yes, she does. She never wants to be away from me for long. Yes, I see that. She can even find you when you're in another time/space dimension. She stated softly. Naruto's eyes suddenly locked onto something behind her and he froze with a blank stare of his face. Tsunade turned around to see Hanabi standing at the door, clearly afraid of Naruto, but refusing to run away. Hanabi! How did you get out? She scolded her. You're supposed to stay in your room. Those worthless Umbu guards. She gritted her teeth. Hokage-sama and Umbu guard ran up to her out of breath. Hanabi has escaped her room. She was fuming and said. I can see that. She is right here at the worst possible place she could be. Naruto was truly thankful Hanabi was a Hyuga at that moment. He couldn't read her white eyes like he could normal eyes. She was shaking from fear and it ignited the ghost of his past in his mind that made him wince. Hanabi rushed over to him and embraced him with her body trembling. Naruto, tell me it was all a bad dream, tell me I didn't see that horrible thing. She blubbered into his chest. Naruto looked like his soul had left him. He looked down at the top of her and sadly said, I'm sorry Hanabi, I'm so sorry, it wasn't a dream. He stroked her silky brown hair, trying to comfort her. She pounded her fist on his chest several times while saying, no, you weren't supposed to say that. She cried inconsolably for several minutes in his arms. He spoke softly. What is it with the beautiful women of this village today? You all seem to be trying to cry me into a river. When she finally cried herself out and asked, that thing isn't going to pop out at any moment and try to kill you, is it? He spoke softly and kindly to her. No, it's not. He looked over at Tsunade with sad conviction. I know this isn't the best time for it, but it is time. Time for what? Hanabi asked as she looked up at him. Naruto looked down at her. Time for me to reveal a great many of my secrets to you. No, Naruto. She's not ready to leave the hospital yet and you're in no condition to use. She scolded him. He pulled out a hidden kunai and vanished with her. Damn him! She yelled as she stomped her foot. Naruto and Hanabi appeared in front of his house. He hit the ground on all fours panting. Naruto, are you okay? Hanabi asked worriedly. Yes, he said while still breathing hard and using the snout of his nine-tailed demon fox statue to get back to his feet. I'm just a bit low on chakra at the moment, he stated. Naruto took a moment to catch his breath with Hanabi staring at him with worry and fear. I guess this is as good a place as any to start telling you the story of my life, he said as he walked over to the partly painted statue of his father. Story? What story? She said emotionally while reaching for him like he was going to fall yet too afraid to touch him. The story begins long before I was born. It starts when the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan finally decided they want peace. A leader had to be chosen, and as you know today, it was the first Hokage. He ended up joining the Uchiha clan and his clan together to form our village. Soon Senju clan had all the political power and the Uchiha clan was reduced to a police force of enforcers of the law over the years. Madara saw that his clan was being reduced to the point of second-class citizens in the village and tried to rally them into an uprising against the Hokage. But the others of the Uchiha clan wanted peace after so many years of war and refused Madara's plans. He gave up on his clan and left the village. He later returned and challenged the first Hokage to battle. At the Valley of the End they fought each other one-on-one. The Hokage won even when Madara had summoned the power of the nine-tailed fox to his aid. He was thought to be dead, but no, he lived on somehow. It wasn't until after the Third Great Ninja War that he resurfaced. The fourth Hokage led our people then. Madara wanted to destroy the village, but he was a shell of his former glory. He could no longer control the nine-tailed fox anymore. On the day I was born he entered Kyuubi's dimension and used his Sharingan to control one of her children to attack another one of her children. He then fled into our village where the fox followed and went on a rampage trying to find him while he hid. My father, the Hokage, tried to use the jutsu you saw last night to trap the fox so the villagers could evacuate. He couldn't hold her for long though, and when she broke free, she was infuriated at him. She launched a beam of condensed chakra at him and he evaded it hid near the hospital that me and my mother were at. I had just been born 8 hours ago. The roof collapsed and crushed my mother, but she did manage to get me out of the way of the falling debris. My father used his yellow flash jutsu to get to her, but all he could see of my mother were her forearms sticking out of the crumbled building with me in her hands. He steeled his heart and took me in his arms. He quickly made his preparations and led the fox to the mountain range north of the village. This is when he used his Kekkai Genkai of sealing. He opened all 8 celestial gates and used his 8 trigram seal to seal the demon in the only vessel that could hold it at the cost of all his chakra and his life. He sealed it into his own son that had his same sealing ability running through his veins. He sealed it into me. Naruto walked over to the Kyuubi statue. Ever since, this, he said as he put his hand on the statue's head, was sealed into me. I became a Jinchuriki. I became the nine-tailed fox's cage. Hanabi was stunned, but still managed to say, But all the books I read said your father killed it. Naruto smiled at her. That's a half-truth. Come on inside, there is much more of the story for you to hear. He took the stunned Hyuga by the hand and led her inside. He sat her down on her favorite couch and he sat on the other side of her before beginning his story again. It's true that he did kill half of the demon. The other half is sealed within me. The third Hokage wanted to adopt me, but his clan would hear nothing of it. They didn't see me for who I was. They only saw me as the nine-tailed demon fox named Kyuubi. I stayed with his clan until I was almost 4 years old. Everyone but the Hokage hated me. I was abused and beaten for the most minor offenses if he wasn't around. They took any opportunity to hurt me. They had finally outvoted Hokage and I was sent away to an orphanage. There too I was beat up and mistreated. I had no idea why everyone hated me so much. I didn't know what was sealed within me. The Hokage forbid anyone from ever telling me about Kyuubi. I cried a lot during this time in my life. I cried until I could cry no more. I went on being mistreated until the age of 10. A group of 3 older kids surrounded me and beat me mercilessly. None of the other villages would help me. They just watched. They beat me for what seemed like forever, until I wanted to die just to stop the pain. The Hokage showed up and put a stop to it. I was taken to a hospital and the 3 teens were thrown in jail. After he dropped me off, he ordered a medic to treat my wounds and went to the jail to talk to the teens. The medic tried to poison me and make it look like I died from the beating I had received. When the Hokage got back to check on me, he found me convulsing violently and knew I had been poisoned. He found the medic and threw him in jail after overseeing that I got the medical attention I needed. He put me under the guard of the Umbu so no one else could try to harm me. The next day the Hokage called the village together for a meeting at the arena. The 3 teens and the medic were bound in the arena fighting area with guards around them. The Hokage himself went up to the teens and severed the back of their necks with a kunai, killing them instantly. It was not said what he did to the medic, but the records only say his death was much more painful and that many couldn't watch. He decreed that day that anyone that harmed me would receive the same fate as well as their families. No one dared harm me again after that. I had no idea this had happened. The village for the most part acted like I didn't even exist. At least when they hated me they would acknowledge my existence. I was lost in darkness. Soon the Hokage enrolled me in the ninja academy. Here too I was mistreated, but never harmed. Other students stole my books because they didn't want me to be a ninja. I thought Irika-sensei hated me as well. He was always so hard on me and I would pull pranks just to get attention to get others to acknowledge I existed. Since I didn't have my books to learn with and I was always messing around, I failed to make Chunnin 2 times. I failed because I couldn't do the clone jutsu right. It was my worst skill, he said calmly. Hanabi's sad face went to one of shock. No way! You couldn't make a clone? Naruto chuckled and said, Yes, that's right. She eyed him carefully. Well, what happened? He looked at her and said, I'm getting to that part. It was the day before my 3rd time taking the test and I pulled a prank. I painted graffiti all over the Hokage monument. Irika-sensei caught me and forced me to clean it up. While I was cleaning it up he took pity on me and told me after I was done he'd take me out for ramen. I know it might not seem like much, but he saved me from the darkness with his kindness. That was the start of the new me. The next day I took the test to become a Chunnin. Again I failed because I couldn't make a clone. I was very depressed about it when a man came up to me and told me of a forbidden scroll in the Hokage Tower. He told me there was a jutsu on it that if I learned it, Irika-sensei would pass me. I stole the scroll and took it out into the woods. The first jutsu on it was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. I practiced it for an hour and had mastered it. Then Irika-sensei found me and chewed me out. Soon the man that told me to steal the scroll came to kill me and take the scroll for himself. He also told me why everyone in the village hated me. He told me I was the 9-tailed demon fox. I didn't know whether to believe my sensei's words or his at one point, so I ran. The man revealed that he was going to kill my sensei and I stepped in. I made over 300 shadow clones and beat him to a pulp for trying to hurt my master. Irika told me to come over to him and close my eyes. I did and he put his own leaf ninja headband on me and told me I passed. My life as a ninja finally started. I was put into Squad 7 under Kakashi, who had never passed anyone trying to get into his squad. My teammates were Sakura Hakura, who I had a big crush on, and Sasuke Uchiha, who I hated at the time. Sakura had a huge crush on Sasuke, but he had only one goal: to kill his brother and revive the Uchiha clan. He said, "Wait, why would he want to kill his brother?" she asked. Naruto sighed. "I was going to save that for later, but if you must know, I'll tell you now. The uprising Madara tried to start came far too late, but it did come 13 years ago. Sasuke's brother Itachi was a genius prodigy of their clan. He was also feeding the Hokage. The information on the rebellion his father was starting. Finally the Hokage was overruled by the council and Itachi was ordered to kill everyone in his own clan. Which he did with the help of Madara." He said. Wait. She started to say before Naruto spoke again. Yes, he was still alive and well all those years later. Now hush, I'm not skipping to the end to tell you how. She bit her lips together and remained quiet. Itachi and Madara killed off the entire clan, but there was one person in the clan he couldn't kill his little brother. Sasuke attacked him and was easily overpowered and thrown to the ground. Itachi told him to come back to him when he had the Madara Sharingan, and the only way to get it was through hate. From that day on, Sasuke trained to kill his brother Itachi. He was an Avenger from that day forward. Now back to Squad 7. I hated Sasuke because he was good at everything and Sakura like him. During our training I stopped hating Sasuke and he somewhat stopped saying I was only in the way. We became rivals. We feed off each other's successes only to try to keep surpassing each other. Our first real mission was to protect a carpenter named Tazuna building a bridge. It was a C-rank mission. What we didn't know is that he was a wanted man in his village. Gato was a tyrant and was leading the town through fear and force. Gato didn't want the bridge built and hired 2 S-class wanted ninjas to go after Tazuna. It finally came down to us squaring off with them. One of them trapped me and Sasuke in a jutsu of mirrors. The ninja moved from mirror to mirror throwing needles at us so fast that neither of us could keep up. We were sitting ducks until Sasuke's Sharingan awakened. He could now follow the ninja's movements, but the ninja threw a huge attack of needles at me. Sasuke pushed me out of the way and took the full brunt of the attack. He was stabbed all over his body and collapsed. I thought he was dead and I snapped. I was so happy that Sasuke had acknowledged me as a friend with his actions and I was so mad at the ninja for killing him. My anger became so great that the seal holding Kyuubi's chakra back weakened and filled me with its powerful chakra. I became 10 times strong than I was before. The ninja could no longer outmatch me with speed. I shattered the ninja's mirrors and had him around the throat. He asked me to kill him, but I couldn't do it. He broke free and went to protect his master Zabuza when Kakashi was about to kill him. He died and Zabuza could care less, saying he was only a tool. Gato and his men showed up afterwards and I repeatedly asked Zabuza how he couldn't care for his comrade. Gato made it known that he wasn't planning on paying him and he was just going to kill him after he completed the mission. Zabuza finally regretted the loss of his comrade, but had lost the use of both of his arms. He told Kakashi he wanted to avenge his comrade. Haku asked me for my last kunai. I tossed it to him and he caught it in his mouth. He charged Gato through his men and killed him. Tazuna's grandson showed up with the rest of the village to retake their town and Gato's men fled. He completed the bridge and the town is now free. He stated. So that picture's on the wall over there is the bridge? She asked. He replied. Yes, it is. She got a confused look on her face. Why would they name it after you? Because I was the one that inspired his grandson to rally his people. He stated. We went home and soon Kakashi said we were ready to take the Chunnin exams. We all passed the first part, but during the second test Sasuke got attacked by Orochimaru. He left a curse mark on him that would slowly eat away at him, and if he got angry it would awaken and make him much stronger for a time. We completed the second part nonetheless. Only to find out too many of us had passed. We were put in one-on-one fights to see who would advance to the final test. Me and Sasuke advanced, but there were 2 other fights that I have to tell you about. One you already know about. The fight between Neji and Hinata I'm sure you've heard about. After the fight, I vowed to beat him on my Nindo for hurting Hinata. The biggest fight to watch was easily the match between Rock Lee and Gaara of the Sands. No one had ever even scratched Gaara before. As you know, Rock Lee can only use taijutsu. Their fight went back and forth and finally they were at a stalemate. Lee asked Guy-sensei if he could use that move. Guy gave him the go-ahead. Lee opened 4 of the celestial gates and gained incredible power. He broke Gaara's strongest defenses and nearly won. But after Gaara had taken both of Lee's lotuses, Lee's body was trashed. Lee didn't go down even when Gaara knocked him out. He fought on even in his sleep. Gaara had already broken his arm and one of his legs. Gaara was going to finish him off when Guy stepped in and stopped the fight. Lee's body was so messed up they said his career as a ninja was over. We saw who we were going to fight in the final test in front of everyone at the arena, and as you know, I was matched up with Neji for the first fight. Sasuke was matched with Gaara. We were given time off to train for our last fight. Kakashi wouldn't train me and got Ebisu-sensei to teach me. I begrudgingly took up training under him and started working on my chakra control. I was learning to walk on water one day when he started yelling at some pervert on a toad that was peeking in the girl's bath. The pervert knocked him out and I had no one to train me. He told me he was the great toad sage Jiraiya. I didn't know who he was. I followed him around all day telling him that he had to train me since it was him that knocked out my teacher. Eventually he gave up and asked who I was. I told him my name and he asked what I was trying to learn. He had me take off my shirt and build up some chakra. He quickly found out why my chakra control was so bad. Orochimaru had put a 5-pronged seal over my father's seal during our fight. He removed it and I could easily walk on water. Eventually he let me sign his toad contract and showed me how to summon. In a word, I was awful at it. I could only summon tadpoles with it. Jiraiya knew I was a Jinchuriki and told me to use up all my blue chakra one day. I did as he told me and he threw me off a cliff. He knew the only way I could tap into Kyuubi's chakra was in a life or death situation. I summoned Boss Toad mere seconds from dying and he wasn't happy to see me. He kept trying to throw me off his back and I managed to stay on him all day, winning his respect. I returned to take the final test where, as you know, I beat Neji and earned the respect of many during that fight. I'm sure you saw what happened next. We were invaded and Sasuke chased after Gaara. We followed him. Gaara nearly killed Sasuke and I learned that he too was a Jinchuriki like me. He had the one-tailed demon sealed within him, but it wasn't the masterful sealing my father did on me. His was flawed and the demon constantly tortured him. He was in the same darkness that I used to be in before Iruka saved me. Instead of him playing pranks, he killed people to define his existence. He thought true power came only from relying on himself. I finally figured out that a ninja can only become truly powerful when protecting something precious to him. Gaara was using the sand to slowly crush the life out of Sakura. I went all out on him and he eventually brought out Shikaku, the sand spirit. I summoned Boss Toad and we went at it. I eventually won and beat it into his head that someone could never be strong without bonds with other people. He later became the Kazekage. I got back only to find that we had stopped the invasion, but we had lost our Hokage in the fight. Sometime later the curse mark on Sasuke started corrupting him. He left the village to join up with Orochimaru in order to become stronger. We found out about it and I was given the first S-rank mission since the Third Ninja War. It was to retrieve Sasuke. At the gate to the village before we left, Sakura begged me to bring Sasuke back. I swore on my Nindo I would. Orochimaru only wanted him so he could steal his body with his resurrection jutsu. Every 3 years he had to find another body to live in and he wanted the Sharingan. We quickly formed a team and went after them. We kept having to leave someone behind to fight one of the 4 ninjas that were guarding Sasuke. Eventually I caught up to Sasuke and it was just the 2 of us at the Valley of the End. We both went all out and for the first time I fully brought out Kyuubi's demon cloak that surrounded me in its chakra and gave me one of his chakra tails. We finally chose to come at each other with our strongest attack. I used my Rasengan and he used his Chidori. We both were blown back and not long after that Sasuke hit me with a Chidori to the chest, knocking me out. He couldn't come to kill me though and Kakashi found me and took me back to the village. It was decided since the Akatsuki wanted to capture me and take the 9-tailed fox that I would leave the village. I spent the next 3 years training under my master Jiraiya. He taught me to use my head more. He also trained me to start using Kyuubi's chakra if I ever needed it. I returned home and was soon sent out on a mission to rescue Gaara from the Akatsuki. We endured so many deadly fights with the members of the Akatsuki before finally we made it to where Gaara was. We found him already dead. They sealed his one-tailed spirit and it killed him. He said, Wait, that he died? How? What happened? She asked in shock. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, Yes, he died. When a Jinchuriki is separated from their tailed spirit they die. I lashed out at the Sand Village elder that was with us. It was her that sealed Shikaku into him in the first place. She admitted everything she had done was wrong and asked me to help her with a jutsu. Chio used my massive amount of chakra and the life force of her own spirit to bring Gaara back to life. We headed back to his village and I was helping him along because he could hardly walk because he was so weak. We got within a mile of the sand village and all of his people were lined up on the wall. When they saw us coming and knew we had succeeded in our mission, they all cheered at us. It was quite a sight. From horizon to horizon sand people cheered for their Kazakage. I was in awe. I didn't even know the sand village had so many people. We buried Chio and at her funeral. Gaara told me that one day he wanted to be a ninja like me and we shook hands. I returned to the village and soon after we found out a spy of Orochimaru's would be meeting one of the Akatsuki we killed at the Heaven and Earth Bridge in 10 days' time. Sakura and I were sent there with a new Jonin leader named Yamato and a teenage guy from Umbu named Sai. Sai is the one that uses art jutsu. He is the one that painted my Kyuubi statue outside. He added. We didn't get along with Sai because he was a jerk without emotions, but we eventually made it to the bridge. Yamato disguised himself as Sasori and waited for the spy. None other than Kabuto showed up. They talked for a moment and then Orochimaru himself showed up. Kabuto attacked Yamato and destroyed his disguise. He was forced to call us out from hiding. I went berserk and attacked Orochimaru for some comments he made about Sasuke. For if Kyuubi's tails came out and Kyuubi took over my body, even Orochimaru was forced to retreat from me. In my four-tailed form I hurt Sakura. Her arm got burned. I didn't know that at the time seeing as Kyuubi was in control. Yamato later told me that I was the one that hurt Sakura and from then on I shunned Kyuubi's power and decided to use only my own power. Sai had a secret mission and gave Orochimaru the files on all of the Umbu to gain his confidence. We followed them back to his hideout and eventually captured Sai. We persuaded him not to follow his mission. We eventually found Sasuke and he took us on. He easily defeated us and was about to kill us all when Orochimaru stopped him. Again, I was too weak to bring him back. We went back to the village and sometime later Kakashi-sensei started working with me to create my own new jutsu. This is the time that Kakashi got the idea to have me train with a bunch of shadow clone to learn jutsu faster. I learned my first element, the wind. It took a while, but I got it down. He then had me infuse the Rasengan with my wind element. This took much longer to get and during my training Asuma was killed on a mission. His squad vowed revenge on the Akatsuki zombie brothers and Kakashi went along as their captain. Tsunade wanted to send our team as backup for them, but she wasn't going to send us if I didn't complete my jutsu. I almost didn't complete it in time, but we made it. I ended up killing one of the zombie brothers with my Rasen Shuriken. Shikamaru had already killed the other one by the time backup arrived. I sustained some backlash damage from my new jutsu. Tsunade told me if I used the jutsu again I would likely lose my ability to mold chakra. It took some time for my arm to heal. News of Sasuke killing Orochimaru was surfacing and so were sightings of his movements. A team was formed to find him and we set out. We tracked him until his scent split up and I summoned a bunch of clones to look all over for him. As luck would have it, one found him and he popped my clone. I told the others and headed off for him, only to run into another Uchiha. He stated, "Are we finally getting close to your final battle with Madara?" She asked impatiently. Naruto gave her a sour look before stating, "We are getting pretty close, but no, that isn't who I ran into. I ran into Itachi. I tried to attack and capture him. He was just far too strong and smart for me to compete with. Luckily, he only wanted to talk. He asked me why I was always chasing after his brother and I told him, unlike you, I think of him more as a brother than you ever will. He asked me a few other questions and then told me I thought like a child. He transferred part of his powers to me and told me to make sure Sasuke wasn't taken over by Madara Uchiha. He told me when the time was right those powers would show themselves." He disappeared, leaving me with more questions than answers. We tried to catch up with Sasuke, but Madara posing as a fool named Tobi stalled us. He only left once he told us the news that Sasuke had killed Itachi, but he was hurt pretty bad. The race to get to him was on, but Madara was by far the faster. He got to him first and hid him away from me. Yet again I failed to retrieve my friend and fulfill my promise to Sakura and my Nindo. I returned home only to find out my master, Jiraiya, had been killed from one of the great sage Toad's elder. I chewed out Tsunade for letting him go and vowed to avenge my master. Later I helped decode a message that Jiraiya had given his life to send to me. "None of them are the real one," was all it said. I went to be trained as a Toad Sage by Fukasaku. I trained in secret to throw the Raisin Shuriken, and soon after mastering it in Sage mode, we found out Pain was attacking the village. We returned and I didn't even recognize my own village. I found Pain when he was about to attack Tsunade and stepped in. It wasn't easy, but I destroyed 4 of his 6 clones before Pain got the upper hand. I was staked to the ground and Hinata came to save me. She was no match for Pain and he nearly killed her. I couldn't contain my anger and hatred. Kyuubi took over and I nearly broke the seal before entering my own mind. There I saw Kyuubi and most importantly my father. He stated. Hanabi blinked a few times before asking how I thought he was dead. Yes, he is, but he left an imprint of himself in the seal if I was ever close to bringing all 9 tails out, effectively breaking the seal. He stopped me and restored the seal. I defeated the last 2 remaining Pains. I then went to the real Pain named Nagato. I learned that either he or I was the child of destiny that would either save or destroy the world as we know it. I finally answered his question on how to stop the chain of hatred and war. I told him I'd believe in Jiraiya's ideals and not take my revenge on him. He used a jutsu to revive everyone he had killed during his evasion and then told me he would put his faith in me to be the child of destiny. He passed away and the fight was over. Tsunade was in a coma from the whole ordeal and Danzo took over as a temporary Hokage. The summit of the 5 Kages was called and he left. Sasuke and his team attacked and failed to kill Danzo because he fled. Madara finally revealed his real plan to the other 4 Kages. His plan was to gather all of the tailed beast and return them into its original form, Jubi the 10-tailed beast. He wanted to become its Jinchuriki and use its power to use in Sharingan on the moon to enslave everyone in the world to his will. Madara would rule the world under a false idea of peace. He believed that the great moon sage of the 6 paths, Rakuto, captured Jubi and sealed him within his own body. This part of the story is true. He also believed that he sundered his spirit into 9-tailed beasts that we know today. This is a stretch. The actual form of the Jubi demon is likely the 9-tailed beasts combined. They can combine to make a single 10-tailed beast called Jubi, but that is not their true form. Madara already had 7 of the tailed beast when the Kages refused to bow to him. He started the 4th ninja war with the tailed beast he already had. I was deemed too valuable to join in the fight and I was kept in hiding. Madara captured the 8-tailed beast shortly after he started the war. I was the final piece he needed for his plans. Him and Sasuke were desperately seeking me. They destroyed one village after another with the powers of the tailed beast. Even with the alliance of all the Kages and the samurai, they could do little against them. They kept me in the dark on just how many people were dying. When I found out, I refused to stay out of the battle any longer. I took to the field to face Madara and Sasuke. Madara used the tailed beast to keep the Kages and the samurai armies at bay while me and Sasuke fought. I tried over and over for almost 2 hours to get Sasuke to see the error of his ways. I wouldn't kill him, it wasn't an option for me. He finally reviled a new jutsu he had created with his new Sharingan. A jutsu he called Burning Light. He used it on me and permanently blinded my eyes. He stated in a sad, lost manner. Hanabi wore a very confused look before timidly asking, "Then how can you see me now then?" Naruto took a ragged sigh and looked at her with deep sadness in his eyes. "Because these aren't my eyes." He released the hinge on his eyes and they went from a vibrant blue to a deep brown. She stared at him blankly and asked, "Whose eyes are they then?" His eyes turned red with 3 coma marks around the pupil to reveal the Sharingan. He looked like he had lost the will to live in that moment and told her, "They are the greatest marks of my failure, they're Sasuke's eyes." Hanabi stared at him in utter shock for a long moment. "How? Did you take them? By force? She asked with wide eyes. Naruto looked down sadly before saying, No, I didn't. Madara showed up and the two of them easily overpowered me. They staked me to the ground and started taking Kyuubi's chakra and sealing it into Sasuke. Madara was using a weird jutsu that connected him to Sasuke with a string of blue chakra from behind. The chakra string was coming out of his Sharingan. They weren't just sealing Kyuubi's chakra. There were rivers of chakra flowing out of all the tailed beasts into him of every color. Flashback. The landscape that was once a forest looked like a desert of blast holes and wildfires burning up rooted trees. Massive blasts were flying out in all directions while the massive armies of all 5 ninja nations and the samurai tried desperately to reach Naruto. The other tailed beasts had formed a 1-mile perimeter around Naruto and they were destroying anyone that got near them. Naruto was staked to the ground with chakra-absorbing black stakes on the war-torn earth. His solid white eyes were no longer of any use to him as Sasuke was pulling an inferno of burning red chakra out of his chest with both arms outstretched. Sasuke! Naruto yelled through the great pain of having Kyuubi chakra stolen from him. This isn't what Itachi wanted for you. He told me you were the one person he could never kill. Sasuke replied very cool and calmly. I don't care what my brother thought of me. I will not follow his path. I am not my brother. You never changed, Naruto. You're still spouting crap until the very end and yet you understand nothing. Naruto spoke through his teeth, gritting pain. I know what you're planning to do. Enslaving the world's people in Jinjutsu isn't true peace. It's slavery. Sasuke gave him an evil grin. As I said, you understand nothing. Humanity is too stupid and weak to achieve true peace. They will always start another war. The cycle of death and hate is too strong to overcome. Surely you see this. Naruto no longer felt his physical pain anyone and only felt sadness. All I see is someone who is lost and in the darkest of places. I see you crying in that darkness and I've been trying to save you from it for so long because I used to be in that darkness. He said and then coughed up blood. Sasuke was glowing in waves of chakra of every color and every second that ticked he glowed brighter. You fool! He said and started drawing in chakra even faster. This caused Naruto to tension up. You offer me friendship and he offers me godhood. I will rule this world with my Jinjutsu. I will end war. I'm going to destroy your village and all its people before that ever happens. Do you still think I'm your friend? I am killing you as we speak. You're still the same stupid person you've always been. I don't care if others care for me. I'm not like them. He yelled at him. Naruto had blood trailing down his face. Still haven't figured it out, they way to end the pain. Hatred and war is to understand each other. What are you afraid of you? Sacredly cat. Sasuke laughed for a long moment. What has understanding ever gotten this world before? It is still always at war over petty crap. Those that make the war ill-fit to lead other nations and soon they won't be able to. He laughed again. Naruto smiled at him. For Na Avenger you never did defeat your brother at full strength. Do you know why? How like I care. That fool is dead and I will revive my clan. He yelled. Naruto still wore his smile. You can't kill me. I've never been in any danger from you. The one thing you fear most is that bond of friendship I refuse to let go of. It is because you are lost and don't understand it. He said with a strained voice. No, Naruto, you are insane in your dying words. He said and laughed while he was drunk on power. You still don't get how strong a ninja Itachi was. He was in the Akatsuki to keep them from attacking our village. From attacking you. He wanted you to be the hero by killing him. He gave his life to you. He said. I told you I don't care. If that's your trump card that you've been holding back, then you're pathetic. Sasuke yelled as the chakra kept entering his body faster and faster. Naruto coughed up more blood before saying. You're the pathetic one all this time and you haven't figured out what Madara is. He stated. He's the leader of the Uchiha from long ago," he said before Naruto spoke again. "I said what he is, not who he is," Naruto said through the loud whine of all the chakra being sucked into Sasuke's body. Sasuke wore a slightly confused look for an instant before showing his sarcastic grin. "And what do you think he is, you insane fool? He's been telling you this whole time, yet you have been running so fast after the power he offered you that you could not see," he said hoarsely. Sasuke laughed. "And what has he been showing me all this time, fool? That he is literally a shell of his former self, you moron. He sealed his soul into that mask he wears. He is a ghost that refused to move on. The reason you can't hit him with anything is because he doesn't have a body to hit. It's not time/space jutsu. He is just a ghost," he yelled. Sasuke's eyes went wide at Naruto's words as the chakra soared into him faster and faster. "He's been saying it all along that he will become the Jubi's Jinchuriki. Not you. And how do you think he is going to do that? What do you think Madara wants so badly as a ghost? He wants your body and your eyes. He's going to erase your soul and steal your body," he yelled. Sasuke was stunned. Memory after memory flooded his mind. His brother talking to him and telling him didn't have enough hate. Madara telling him that he would be the Ten Tails host. How he would create peace. The stark realization came to him that his friend that had refused to stop being his friend was right. He was being played as a pawn when he thought he was the king. Madara snatched the chakra string he had embedded in Sasuke's soul and he hit the ground on his knees fighting its pull. The brat figured it out. He laughed in sadistic glee. "It will do you no good now, Sasuke. Jubi is already forming in your body. It is willing its chakra inside you. It wants to be whole again. There is no way you can stop him now." He laughed again and tugged on the string of his soul. Sasuke hit the ground on all four, panting as his mind was flooded with memory after memory that all said one thing. That he was becoming a monster and Naruto had been trying to save him all this time. He saw himself on the floor of his parents' house crying in the dark after Itachi left. How he had always been like that inside. "When he forms in you, I will yank out your soul and take the last Uchiha body as my own. And there is nothing you can do to stop me." He laughed again. "Humanity has failed. I will kill all the people of this world and remake the human race. We will all be Uchiha. I will wipe the rest out," he yelled. "I must fight him. I have to resist his pull." Sasuke roared in his mind. "Naruto has been right all this time. You moron! I've been a spirit without a body for over 100 years. I know the secrets of the soul. You can possibly resist me." He laughed again at Sasuke's feebleness. "Naruto, what am I supposed to do?" he asked while clutching his chest trying to keep his soul inside his body. Naruto's voice was barely a whisper. "The most important thing for a hero to have is guts, guts to do the right thing." He lay silent as the last of Kyuubi chakra was nearly done leaving his body. "Ha ha ha, how touching. He's almost dead and I can feel the sorrow in your heart, Sasuke." Madara yelled at him and laughed. "I will not fail. I will not back down. This will be my ninja way. Too." He warred with Madara in his mind. "What? Impossible. How could you resist me?" he said, tugging on his chakra string with all his might. "I may not be able to stop you from taking over my body. But..." He pulled out a kunai and cut out the eyes in Naruto's skulls and threw them away. Madara's eyes went wide and he screamed. "No!" He pulled with renewed strength on his chakra string, trying with all his being to rip Sasuke's soul from his body. Sasuke's soul never wavered. "I will keep you from my eyes." He reached into his eye sockets and ripped his eyes out. He jammed them into Naruto with his last ounce of strength. Naruto was moments from death and Sasuke's willpower faded away in an instant as he fainted. "Nunu!" Madara yelled. "So this is how it ends," Naruto thought as he was surrounded by blackness. I failed. I wasn't the child of destiny that saved the world, I was the one that wasn't strong enough and it was destroyed. He thought in despair. In the darkness of death he saw a single shard of light that was blindingly bright. It drew him up into it instantly. He finally came back to his body. He easily counted the 3,870,932 cells of the hands covering his face in an instant. He slowly moved out from under Sasuke. The jutsu string he was fighting was still in his back. Naruto thought for a moment in wonder at what had happened while looking around. Everything was frozen in time. Naruto moved Sasuke out of the rivers of chakra and moved Madara into it. He summoned Giratora the key toad with a loud pop. Naruto, what's going on? He asked in a stunned manner. It's time to use the key. I've got to reseal Kyuubi back inside me to stop Madara, he said calmly. Giratora unfolded his scroll-like body and said sternly. Just press that 9-prong seal on the paper. I hope you know what you're doing. This is the only key we have. Naruto pressed the seal and it glowed red with Kyuubi's chakra. I know, he replied as the red chakra river vanished. It was instantly resealed back inside of him in a white and red flash that left the paper smoking. You aren't going to let him have the other 8-tailed beast, are you? He asked. Yes, I am. Without Kyuubi the Jubi can't form. I just turned him into one big bomb, I think. I'm getting us out of here, you better head out too, he said while hoisting Sasuke onto his shoulder and leaped away as fast as he could. Naruto had almost made it to where the Leaf Ninjas were trying to fight the two-tailed demon before time started slowly moving again. He suddenly felt very tired and only made it a few hundred more feet before collapsing as time moved normally once more. All the tailed beasts quickly faded away as the last of their chakra was absorbed into very stunned Madara. His mask cracked and a volcano of multicolored chakra shot out of it and filled the skies before it exploded violently. The shockwave alone caused the earth to quake for a long moment before it finally settled. Naruto was panting on the ground next to Sasuke when he rolled over on his back and yelled, Hey Kakashi-sensei! A ranked mission complete! All the frozen ninjas that were in a daze snapped out of it. Kakashi was in easy earshot of him and stopped the order to go look for him in the crater that had formed from the blast. He rushed over to him, but Naruto was sound asleep by the time he got there. He just shook his head at him and lifted him onto his shoulder. Guy, grab Sasuke, he said, and then looked to all the other ninja on the field. War's over. Time to go home. How did he do it, Kakashi? He asked as he ran over. Kami only knows. He is our village's most unpredictable ninja, he stated in disbelief. Flashback end. That's how it happened. After that, Tsunade made a decree that no one was to touch Sasuke. That he had made up for all the trouble he had caused. She pardoned him for all his crimes, Naruto said very sadly. Hanabi stared at him in thought for several long moments before asking him, Why would you think it was a failure? You won and got Sasuke back. Her face was very confused while looking at him. Naruto nodded his head. Yes, I did win, but Sasuke is no longer my rival and he's hardly anything like the friend I once knew. He is a broken man eaten up by his regret. He doesn't talk much and after 3 years he just now is finally starting to want to live again. I saved his body, but I couldn't save his soul. He's no longer the Sasuke I once knew, he said and looked at the floor. Where is he now? Hasn't anyone tried to help him? She asked. Naruto looked over at her and hinged his eyes back to blue. He lives in Jiraiya's old house on the west part of town. I gave it to him. And yes, many people tried to help him and Sakura still takes care of him from time to time. You know, stuff like getting his groceries and cleaning up. Hanabi's eyes narrowed at him before saying, You mean like the same way she does for you? She accused him. Naruto gave her a quiet fake laugh before stating, Yeah, I guess she is still trying to take care of us, maybe she is spoiling us. There is a little more of my life you need to hear about, he said calmly. And? She questioned him. Well, I never did finish telling you about me and Sakura. Where to start? I guess I'll just give you the short version, seeing as how I've been talking for so long already. We started dating, but she always had reservations about it.so did at first. I knew part of her would always love Sasuke. It bothered me for a time, but I accepted this fact. Sometimes it just didn't feel right for us to be together. She felt like we were having a relationship behind Sasuke's back. I wanted to tell him, but she said she would tell him and kept putting it off. Finally I came to him and told him. He told me he didn't care. He never wanted to pass on his Uchiha bloodline anyway. He told me they were accursed people and it was best for his clan to end with him. He congratulated me and wished us the best. I told Sakura and she was furious with me. She thought that telling him would only worsen his feelings of sorrow. This was the biggest fight we had during our relationship, but eventually we got through it. We started planning out our lives together and I had an idea of something I needed to ask Tsunade. Something I had been wondering about. He stopped to gauge his reaction. Hanabi asked intently. And? He sighed deeply and leaned his head back to look at the ceiling. I asked her if I could have children. She ran some tests and the results were not good. She told me no woman could bear children for me. The mother of my children would die before the 3rd trimester because of Kyuubi's chakra. After that, whenever things started getting intimate between us, I would pull away. I basically let the relationship crumble. He stated. Hanabi's face went blank with what he was telling her. You mean we can never be together? She asked lifelessly. I don't know about never. There is always hope, but it is unlikely in the long run. He stated to her kindly. She blinked a few times at him in stunned shock before her face became sad. Why are you telling me this? I know you like me. I can feel it. He sighed deeply before saying. Whether I like you or not has nothing to do with it. You're a heiress, Hanabi. You can't end up with someone that can't give you heirs. I'm just telling you that that's not likely to change. If you still want to be my pretend girlfriend, that's fine, even though it does look bad on me as your sensei. If you don't want me to teach you anymore because of what I am, then I'll accept that as well. It wouldn't be the first time someone wanted to distance themselves from me after finding out. These decisions are yours to make. He stood up with an understanding look on his face. But you have been through a lot since last night. You need time away from me to think. I'm going to take you home for today. You are nearly through the first part of accepting me being a Jinchuriki, but there is still one part you haven't accepted yet. He stated as he helped her off the couch. She clearly upset and looked over at him and asked quietly. What part is that? He smiled at her as he led her out the doorway of his house. It will probably hit you. Later tonight, you are still in disbelief. You will know then. They walked quietly all the way back to the Hyuga compound where he dropped her off. She went upstairs without even saying goodbye. Hey Hayashi. He said with a calm look. Yes, Naruto. I heard already. He said. Good. I guess you know what to expect then. He said quietly. Not entirely, it all depends on how much you told her. He stated with a questioning look. Naruto sighed and gave him a weak smile. She knows more about me than most of my closest friends do. I told her most of my life story. She is taking it rather well, but she's still got a long way to go. He gave him an understanding nod. I'll have Shizen look in on her sage. You need not worry. Naruto scratched the back of his head in slight frustration and said. Yeah, that's hard to do. I'm turning into a worrier with my students lately. Naruto was in front of a mid-sized house that was painted white with red trim and old faded paint. He walked up to the door and was about to knock when a voice came from inside. Come in, Naruto. Naruto smiled as he lowered his hand to the doorknob and entered. It was dark in the house even though it was still daylight outside. The living room only had a few pieces of furniture in it. There was a table with 4 chairs around it, a couch and a bookshelf with scrolls on it. There was a fireplace in the far wall and a few pictures on the mantel that Sakura had left there for him. Hello Sasuke. How are you? I see you haven't completely lost your touch, he said. Sasuke was dressed in simple white clothes with a bandage over where his eyes would be. He smiled back at him. I'm a peaceful person now, or at least I'm trying to be. Have a seat. I'll get the tea. He walked into his dark kitchen and brought back 2 cups. Naruto sat down with him at his table. So what is troubling you? Naruto gave him a strained smile before asking. Why do you think something is troubling me? Sasuke gave him a sarcastic expression before stating. Because I know you. I'm blind, not stupid. Naruto looked at one of the pictures across the room with a sad look before stating. Hanabi found out. He explained everything that had happened. I don't know what advice I can give you, Naruto. You handled it much better than I would have done, and in some ways much worse. Naruto slumped onto the table and sighed. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Hey, what are you going to do with all your free time anyway? You can't stay cooped up in here forever. Sasuke held up one hand to stop his next question. Naruto, I've told you. I've chosen to never go back to being a ninja. I'm making amends for my crimes. My clan has caused enough pain and suffering to this world. Naruto gave him a sour look before stating. I didn't totally mean come back and be a ninja, you could do something else. He sighed and then took a sip of his tea. I honestly don't know, Naruto. I'm getting better day by day, but I'm at a loss on what to do with my life anymore. I've been training as a ninja for so long that I just don't know what to do. I guess that's why I was depressed for so long, and it's probably what was holding me back. I've accepted the fact that I have to start over. I am still thinking on the matter, he said calmly. How is your training to follow the Moon Sage going? Sasuke asked after a long moment of silence. It's not going well, he admitted. Sasuke held out his hand and lightning formed in his palm. He gave him a smiling seer and teased him. It's still out of your reach? Naruto sneered right back and then smiled. Thanks, I guess I needed that. Sasuke smiled back. Just because I gave up being a ninja doesn't mean I can't give you a nudge in the right direction. I think we will always make each other stronger in some way. Naruto just nodded in agreement. Hanabi walked down to her father's study and lightly tapped on the door. Yes, come in, he said. She opened the door and her father was sitting at a long desk with a quill in his hand while going over documents. He looked up and got a curious look on his face before setting down his work and asked in a kinder and softer voice. Hanabi, what do you need? She quietly came over and sat down and said, I've got some questions. He gave her an understanding look and said, I figured you'd want to talk to Shizen about it. Hanabi looked at the floor before looking back up at him. Shizen can't tell me what you're thinking. Why didn't you tell me? Because it was not my secret to tell Hanabi. There's a law that's still in effect from the third Hokage that states that no one is allowed to talk about the nine-tailed fox being sealed in Naruto. Hayashi told her. Hanabi crossed her arms and tilted her head forward so that her hair covered her face. You could have at least told me he can't have children before I went and fell for him, she stated with tears in her eyes. Hayashi watched 2 silent tears roll out from under her hair. He put his head in his hands for a moment before looked back to Hanabi with an empathetic look. I'm sorry, my daughter. I didn't know. The moon hung low in the cold night sky as Naruto looked down on the village and its array of colored lights. He was sitting with his arms resting on his knees with his back up against one of the hair spikes on the 4th Hokage's head. How is the sake? Tsunade said as she walked up next to him. His gaze never left the village lights. Probably as bitter as I feel, he said as he picked up the large bottle next to him and handed it to her without looking at her. She sighed and took the bottle as she sat down next to him. I heard you went to the liquor store. It's not like you to drink or to worry like this, she stated knowingly as she looked at the bottle. She giggled at the bottle. Naruto, why didn't you just buy firewater? It's slightly stronger, but doesn't have the awful taste that this stuff does. He shrugged his shoulders while gazing out at the lights. I don't drink. So I didn't know what to get. I just asked for something that could even drown out your worries. She uncorked the bottle and took a long pull on it and handed it back to him. Naruto looked at the rim of the bottle and said, "Let's see if I fare any better the Hayashi did." He tipped the bottle up and took 4 large gulps. "Naruto! You're going to give yourself alcohol poisoning," she stated with concern. He coughed a few times and gasped for air. "Ouch. How do you drink that stuff?" She laughed at him. "I've been drowning out my demons longer than you. The more you drink, the stronger the drink needs to be to have the same effect." Naruto was in pain and was rubbing his belly to try to calm the fires in it. "Don't worry, the burning will go away soon. Here, I'll help," she said as forced some numbing chakra into his body. The pain instantly faded from him and he stared at her, clearly stunned. I didn't know you could do that with healing chakra. How did you do it? And for that matter, why do you need to drink if you can numb yourself with chakra?" She gave him a puzzled look for saying, "It's just surgical numbing chakra. It's what we use in the field if we don't have drugs to numb someone. I'm surprised you didn't at least know about it, and no, I will not teach it to you. With your amount of chakra, you'd paralyze yourself for life learning it." She laughed. He smiled back at her and then put on a fake pouting look while crossing his arms said, "Damn, why can't I learn any of the cool healing ninjutsu?" She smiled at him and took the bottle back. "You certainly are the weirdest ninja I've ever met, Naruto. You can do the most amazing things with chakra, and yet you see something small like using chakra numb part of the body and you think it's such a great jutsu." She took another drink. Naruto shrugged and tossed her a casual glance. "That's because it is a great jutsu. A jutsu doesn't need to be S-rank to be great." She rolled her eyes while still smiling. "That's exactly what I mean. You could probably level a mountain range and yet you are so amazed by something so simple." He laughed at her. "Of course. Leveling a mountain range is easy. You just combine 3 or more elements into the Rasengan and throw it. It's impressive the first few times, then it's just boring. There just isn't much need for that kind of jutsu. I bet the person that invented that numbing jutsu is famous in the healing world. I can think of tons of uses for it," he stated. She blushed slightly and said, "The third Hokage wasn't very impressed with it when I showed him. He told me I could have better spent my training time elsewhere." He gave her a disbelieving look. "Who? I thought that old man was smart. How could he not see how useful a jutsu it is?" She rolled her eyes. "Because a medic is never supposed to be separated from their supply bag, that and he had already taught me how to seal a pile of supplies into a scroll." "What, didn't he ever stub his toe at night? That jutsu would be awesome then," he stated as he got to his feet and intently pointed at his toe. "You don't hurt anymore, you hear me?" Tsunade laughed in a silly manner and nearly fell over. I could just see Sarutobi-sensei doing that. She continued to laugh while slapping her knee. "You know, Shikamaru gave me some bed slippers to prevent that." He laughed as he took another drink off the bottle. "And who's on yours?" "You and Jiraiya," she said and laughed. He returned her laugh. "I got you and Jiraiya too." After they had calmed down, they stared out into the night in silence. "Naruto, what are you thinking?" Tsunade asked from her sitting position next to him, suddenly breaking the silence. He looked over at her while smiling. "I was thinking of a lot of things. One is that I haven't felt this good in a while. It's kind of nice. I've been down so much lately, I needed a break from it." She peered at him for a moment. "Can you even walk? I can't tell how drunk you are because of the sage marks around your eyes." He giggled at her. "Well, I don't know how drunk I am. This is only the second time I've drank. I can tell you I feel happy though. The first time I drank was when mouth off you Jiraiya about drinking too much. He made me take a shot of what he was drinking. I think it was firewater, but I know it hurt." She laughed and took another drink from the bottle. "Knowing him, I bet it was." She calmed herself and got serious for a moment. Is that really all you thinking about? He looked over at her with a nostalgic smile and said, I think about my greatest fear a lot of times when I come up here. She sighed and wrapped her arms around her knees. So you're thinking about QB? He gave her a weird look. No, QB isn't my greatest fear, he said with his mind as far away as his gaze on the stars of the night. She shot him a puzzled look and asked, Then what is it? He nodded his head a few times. It's that first day after I become Hokage, when I sit down at that desk to serve the village. It's when I pick up that first really hard mission and I have to hand it to one of my friends knowing they might not come back from it. She looked over at him and said, As much as I complain about the paperwork, I have to admit that's my greatest fear too. Naruto suddenly got a goofy grin on his face and laughed. Are you really that drunk, Naruto? She asked him with a concerned look on her face. Naruto took the bottle from in between her knees and took another drink. Nope, but let's have some fun. She gave him a flat, annoyed look. This is normally when I punch a guy at the bar for using a pickup line on me. I hope you didn't mean it that way, she warned him. He rolled his eyes at her and helped her to her feet. Do you know the game What Can't You Do with Chakra? He asked her. She gave him a bemused look. Yes, I've played that board game as a teenager. How do you know about it? It hasn't been made for a long time. He laughed at her. I inherited it from my father with the house. Irika actually borrowed it a long time ago from the third Hokage, but it was my father's. He used it as a teaching tool. She gave him a dull look. You want to play a board game? No, I want to play What Can't You Do with Chakra. For really. Instead of moving a piece around the board and drawing cards for the questions, we will try to stump each other with our own question. If you can do what the other person asked with your own jutsu, you get 5 points. If you can think of someone in the village that can do it, you get 1 point. If you're stumped, you get no points. High score wins. Oh, and nothing over AC rank jutsu, he stated. She sighed. So it's like a What Can't You Do with Chakra Hokage edition? He gave her a silly look and said, I guess you go first. Ask me to do anything with chakra. She thought about it curiously for a moment and said, We need some things to work with. He smiled at her. Like what? I need a cup and water, she said. Naruto pulled out his sealing scroll and rolled through it. There should be one in this section of it. Unseal, he said with a hand sign. A cluttered pile of old broken kitchen furniture and supplies appeared on the ground. She looked at the mess on the ground and sighed exasperatedly at him. Why am I not surprised that you would seal a mess into a scroll instead of cleaning it up the right way? Well, here is a glass. I'll just summon some water. She filled the glass and handed it to him. Boil the water without fire, she said. He laughed at her. Have you forgotten what my favorite food is? He took the cup from her and held his hand over it. He forced a great amount of air pressure on the top of the water. It steamed for a moment, then boiled. My turn, he stated happily as he tossed the cup over his shoulder and looked into the pile of stuff. He grabbed a small wooden chair with a broken leg and said, Fix this. She laughed at him. You know, only Yamato can use the wood element, she said. He gave her a disappointed look. You don't even want to try? No one said you had to fix it with wood. She thought about it and used her earth element to form up a rock leg and replace the broken one. Now it's my turn, she said as she slammed down the fixed chair. She uncorked the bottle of liquor and sat it on the small chair. Take a shot from the bottle and drink it without moving the bottle. Naruto walked over and sat in front of the bottle and thought. I have to use chakra, so I can't use a straw, he mumbled to himself. Oh.duh, he said, slapping his forehead. I feel dumb now. You gave me an easy one. He used his water element to pull the drink out of the bottle and formed it into a small ball that hovered at face level to him. He walked over and swallowed it out of mid-air. Tsunade was slapping her knee. She was laughing so hard. I can't believe it took you that long to figure that out. He was rolling his tongue in his mouth trying to fend off the taste before saying, well, sorry. I don't know all your bar tricks. Naruto fumbled drunkenly in the pile and pulled out the broken chair leg. Cut it smoothly in half without using a kunai. You must be pretty sauced up. She stated as she threw the chair leg into the air and summoned her chakra scalpel and cut it cleanly in half. Naruto's face faltered. Damn! I forgot you could do that. He yelled while pointing at her. She grinned at him evilly and said, pick me up off the ground without touching me or spinning me. Ha, that's easy for me and you know it. He summoned 2 whirlwinds that were 10 feet tall. One was spinning to the right and one was spinning to the left. One was spinning inside the other and lifted her off the ground for a moment. She had to grab the bottom of her shirt to keep it from flying up as she rose. Once she was down on the ground again, she was smiling like a child. That was fun. Naruto got his own evil look out. Tsunade was just about to take another drink off the bottle when he said, using your jutsu make it to where you can never take another drink of liquor. She stopped just as she was about to take a drink and then shrugged her shoulders and took the drink. Ha, 5 points isn't worth it even if I could, still that's a dirty move. She stated as she put the bottle back down. Seeing as how you played dirty with the last one. Pull the moon down to earth. She stated sarcastically. Rakuto, the moon sage, could. So I only get 1 point. He stated in a drunken manner. Ha, using a myth to get your points, that's not fair. She trailed off suddenly. Never mind. Take your point. She said as she looked away. Naruto fell over and said, help me up. She eyed him carefully as the polished off the bottle and summoned the earth to rise under his back. He stood back up. Damn, I thought I could get you to not use chakra. He stated with a smile on his face. I'm much smarter than that. She said as she tossed the empty bottle to him. Get the bottle from second drawer on the left of my desk. I can't use the yellow flash, it's too high a rank, I'll just do this. Naruto said in thought before walked over to the edge of the monument and lifted himself up with wind. He floated down to the Hokage tower and in the window of her office. He came back within a few minutes with it. He held it over his head and said, I got it. Good, next time you need to be faster. She said angrily as she took the bottle and uncorked it. They went on for over 2 hours until they both were very drunk. Many of the trees had carvings of animals in their trunks from when they got into a statue war. There was even a life-sized stone statue of Tsunade that Naruto did using earth manipulation. The ground was littered with oddities like a pot lid that had been crumpled up into a ball by Tsunade. Each thing was more random and odd as they looked drunkenly around the area. Tsunade, it's your turn, Naruto said while swaying side to side on his feet. She blinked a few times at him before asking, my turn to what? He narrowed his eyes in drunken thought before laughing. I don't remember actually. Tsunade's face was very flushed when she said, you're pretty drunk, Naruto. And I'm not much better. Let's go home before we fall asleep out here. Naruto drunkenly said, I'm okay, what was the final score anyway? She gave him a puzzled look and said, I thought you were keeping score. I don't know. Let's call it a draw. Naruto walked over to her and put his arm over her shoulder. A draw who? Okay, I'll help you home like normal. I'm the Mord, what's the word? He fought with his befuddled mind for an answer. Stupid one? She said, hardly walking straight as they headed off to the Hokage tower holding each other up. Naruto shook his finger in front of him a few times in thought before saying, that too, but that's not what I was trying to remember. Oh yeah, it's your turn. What did you want me to try to make next? Naruto, are you that? She hiccuped a few times. Are you that short-minded? We just called it a draw not 15 seconds ago. She stumbled and he caught her before she fell. Naruto helped her to get her footing back and said, that's it. I'm the more reasonable one. He slurred. They staggered through the streets of the village before making it to the stairs of the Hokage Tower. You know, that whole time we were playing that game, it made me think of all the most important things I can't do with chakra. Naruto said suddenly. She giggled at him while steadying them both with her hand on the railing. And what can't the great hero of the village do with chakra? She asked while trying to keep her footing. He leaned over and touched his face to hers in a drunken stupor and sighed. You can't mend a broken heart with chakra, you can't get people to truly understand one another with chakra, you can't unite the 5 ninja nations with chakra alone. He stated, trying to keep the stairs from looking so blurry. They finally reached the top of the tower before she replied. Is that really your goal? To unite the 5 ninja nations? Naruto said. Isn't that a good goal to have as a Hokage? She sighed. Yes, it's a great goal. All of the Hokages wanted the same thing, but it's a very hard thing to do without starting a war. She said while trying to remember how she was supposed to open the door to her office. Tsunade, the guard is holding the door open for you, what are you doing? He asked her. She tried to clear her head with a few blinks, but it did little good. Oh right, she said as she walked through the door with his arm on her shoulder. This is normally where I drop you off. But, where's your bedroom? He asked, hardly awake. She yawned and moved them over to a scroll case that covered one of the walls. She pressed a spot in the wall and the large bookcase moved out of the way, revealing a doorway. It's in here, she stated sleepily. That's very ninja of you, he said, trying to keep his balance. He followed the dark passageway clinging to the walls for support and made it into a large decorated bedroom. He put her down on a large 4-post bed with slugs carved out of dark wood for the post. He turned to leave and then turned back to her. Oh yeah, you told me to remind you of something. What was it? Water circle? He asked, trying to remember. Water globe, she said while summoning an apple-sized globe of water at the tips of her fingers. Come here, Naruto. He staggered back over to her and she put the water globe into his forehead. This should stop the hangover tomorrow, she said, and then yawned. Take your shirt off. I'll heal your stomach so you don't get sick either. He took off his trench coat with flames embroidered at the bottom of it and his shirt and laid them on a non-existent chair. She put her hand on his stomach and poured healing chakra into him for a few seconds. She eyed him for a moment while he swayed back and forth. Oh yeah, it's still your turn, he said, hardly awake. She sighed and rolled her eyes at him. She got up and pushed him over onto the bed and yawned. You're way too drunk to make it all the way home, just sleep here tonight. She went to the bathroom and changed into her bedclothes before climbing into bed. They battled even in their sleep. Both of them wanted to sleep in the middle of the bed. Naruto did a winjutsu in his sleep that moved her to the edge of her side and she would roll back over and push him over to the other side in her sleep. They both were complete bed hogs. Kakashi had been waiting for almost an hour in the Hokage's office before asking her assistant. What is taking her so long? She told me to be here at 9 sharp. The assistant got a nervous look and said, She's not up yet. And you're scared to wake her up? He asked, clearly unimpressed. She meekly replied, Yes. He sighed and walked over to the secret door and pressed the button and went inside. When he got to the door of her bedroom, he summoned one shadow clone and gave it the signal to open the door. The door silently opened and the clone stood there in shock. Kakashi had his back pressed against the wall next to the door and gave the clone a confused look. The clone raised one of its hands and pointed inside like a statue. Kakashi crept around the doorframe and looked inside. His eye went wide with shock and his clone poofed. He saw Naruto sleeping on his back in the middle of the bed with no shirt on and his bottom half under the black covers. Tsunade was wearing a risque looking, low-cut blue nightgown while sleeping on his chest. She was clutching at his ribs and he had his arms around her in a sleeping hug. There were many long moments of him standing there in stunned silence before he got an evil twinkle in his eye. He pulled out his camera and started snapping pictures. Tsunade woke to the quiet sounds of clicking. She opened her eyes and everything was hazy and blurry. In the blur of images she could make out the annoying flash of Kakashi's camera. She blinked a few times to clear her vision. "Kakashi, what are you doing in my bedroom?" she said sleepily as she laid her head back on Naruto's chest to go back to sleep. "I just came to see what was taking you so long to wake up. If I had known you had company, I would have just come back later," he said while smiling knowingly. She stared over at him clearly not all awake yet before pushing herself to a sitting position and looked at what she was laying on. She saw a chiseled set of ABS well-toned pecs and finally her eyes drifted up to a face with whiskered lines on it with black circles around the eyes. Her eyes instantly snapped wide open. "Oh Cammy, we didn't, you think Tsunade? What would Naruto be doing in bed with you? Besides the obvious." She stared at him while trying to remember last night. It was all a blur. She finally shook Naruto awake. He blinked a few times and drew his face right up to hers while squinting his eyes at her. "Tsunade?" he said sleepily. She asked, "What are you doing in my bed?" Naruto thought about it for a moment. "You told me I was too drunk to go home and told me to sleep here," he said as grabbed the covers and rolled over to go back to sleep. "So nothing happened?" she said in a warning manner. Naruto looked up under his closed eyelids and said, "You snore kind of loudly. Other than that I don't remember." Naruto almost went back to sleep before he realized what exactly she meant. His eyes snapped open and he vanished. He was on top of the headboard of the bed, pointing a shaking finger at her. "No way! Did you get me drunk and take me back to your room to have your way with me?" he accused her while blushing at her sexy nightgown. "What if you get pregnant? You know what will happen. I'll get accused of killing the village's Hokage." Tsunade was quivering in rage and Kakashi's sweat dropped. "Naruto?" he said. "What?" he yelled as he looked over at him. "You do know that older women can't bear children, right?" he said in a careful tone. Naruto relaxed his arm and it fell back to his side. "Really? That's a relief then. I'm just glad I can't remember any of it happening. That would be too weird," he said with a dreading awkward look on his face. "Grrr, Naruto, nothing happened, you moron," she yelled at him and then turned to Kakashi and spoke through gritted teeth. "Give me the camera." He smiled and poofed into smoke. She mumbled loudly in rage, "I'm going to kill him."
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.